Hello class. Today we're gonna be covering app number 6. App number 6 involves labels and the use of strings. And we're gonna create an app similar to this one where you have a blank label. In this case I put your name here, and the user would type in his or her name and last name and mother's last name to be greeted with his own name here. So changing the label with the user inputted. What the user inputted here in this text fields. So before we start, I want to talk about what labels, what strings, variables, ints, and booleans are, and I have it here in my trusty PowerPoint. So these are called primitive data types. And these data types are used in all programming languages. The first one, the one we're going to look at today, are called strings, and strings are they're a data type that can display or use text characters, and they're always used surrounded by quotes. So we have an example here like hello and house. We've even used strings before in I think app number 4. And then we have integers. Integers, they store numbers and they can be negative or positive, but do not contain fractions, so decimal points. Then we have doubles. It's the same as integers, but they use fractions or decimals, and booleans, which are true or false, and we're going to use them later on with if then else statements. So integers, each data type can be added. Well, we're not going to cover a lot of booleans here, but integers, strings, and doubles can be added with themselves. So integer plus integer can equal an integer, like 4 plus 5 equals 9. But a double plus an integer will give you an error, as you're making a sum of different data types. Double plus double equals double, that's perfect. String plus string equals string. But you cannot get a string like hello and add a 6 to it. It will be an error. As you can see, we have two strings here, Anna and Maria, with no spaces, and we've added them, and it would result in the variable called name equal to Anna Maria with no spaces. So we're going to look at this in our app. So without further ado, let's start our project. So first things first, we're going to create a new project as always. Always, it's going to be a single view app. I'm going to call it app6_myid. And save it here in my documents. Okay, then we're going to be greeted with the same window, which holds information for our project, and we're going to head over to main storyboard as always. I'm going to start by changing my iPhone emulator to iPhone SE, as well as the emulator itself. And we're going to close the navigation pane. We're not going to use it. Close this under here and head over to customize the background. So let's click on our background for our view controller and change it to spice it up a little bit. Let's put a blue here. And as you can see here in our project, we have to have one label, another label for first name, father's last name, and mother's last name, a button, and 3 things that are going to be called text fields. So let's start adding our labels first. Label, click and drag, and here we've called it your name. This is like the default status of our label that we're later going to change. I'm going to make it centered, go to font here in the utilities pane, change it to custom, maybe add a different type of font, make it a little bit bigger, let's say 25, and I'm going to change it to a white colored label. Make it centered. Perfect. I'm gonna copy and since we don't have any connections, we can just copy and paste our label. And I'm gonna make it way smaller since this is gonna be the label. It's just gonna tell us what we have to input as users. So the first one is gonna be first name. I'm gonna make it even smaller. 15. First name. Check that it's centered. Okay. And copy paste it. This one's gonna be called father's last name. And mother's last name. So the only label that's going to change in value is going to be this one. This one's just a reference for the user on where to put their information and what to put. So next up, we're going to add our text fields. This is the place where the user inputs information, in this case strings. Text field. Here we go. And it's just a blank bar. I'm going to make it way bigger. Okay. And I'm just going to make it centered so that when the user types in, it's centered and with the default font. Perfect. Lastly, we have to add a button. This button, when it's clicked, is going to change this label's name into hello plus these three inputs. I'm going to name it enter. And let's change its text color to black. Get a little bit bigger maybe. And scroll down to change its background. I'm going to make it a light gray color. Okay. Perfect. So we can close the utilities pane, go to the double circles in the top right corner to open our code. Okay, as always, all of our code is going to be below the class view controller, and we can just click a bunch of enters as we're just going to ignore these two functions. Okay, so how many connections do you guys think there has to be for this program? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Or is just these three and the button? Actually, there's going to be 5 connections. There's going to be one for the label. It's going to be an outlet since only buttons are actions. We're going to name this a label name. Connect. We're going to have one connection for each of the text fields. Outlet as well. They don't have an action when the user inputs things. I name them text name. Okay. This one for my last name. Let's name it text last name. Always with camel case. It's easier to read. All programmers use it. And lastly, my mother's last name. Let's name it mother name. Okay. Lastly, our button. Remember, buttons are always action. Change it to UI button. I'm going to name it button enter. Okay, I'm satisfied with my connections. I can scroll down over my connections to look at them visually. Okay. And now we have to add the code that's going to be inside the button. So when we click the enter button, there's one thing that's going to change, and it's this, the label name. Its value, right now it's in your name, it's going to be changed to hello plus whatever the user inputted. So we're going to change label name. And what are we going to change from label name? It's text. It's going to be equal to what? So in our example here, we have a hello at first. So using strings, they're always in quotes, hello. I'm going to add a comma and a space. If I was not to add the space, it would be hello without a space bar here between hello and Marcelo. So I'm adding the space right now. Plus, and we're gonna add the value of our first text field. So my first text field is called text name dot text, and a different thing happening from other programming languages is this exclamation mark. Let's talk about this exclamation mark. Exclamation marks in Swift mean that we want to unwrap the data type here into a string. So as this is a string, you want to change this to a string as well. It's kind of difficult to understand if you haven't had any contact with programming languages, but what it does is just, if, for example, text name dot text, this one, doesn't have any value, the user doesn't put any value in it, your program would crash, as label name dot text would be nothing, not even no characters in itself. So we're gonna use it, add the text name dot text with the exclamation mark, then add text last name dot text exclamation mark, but we need a space between my first name and my last name, so I have to add quotes with a space. There we go. And finally, my mother's last name, which here's a mistake. This should be called text mother name, but this is a great example to talk about connections. Let's say I want to change my variable name here. I put here text, and I just write here plus space and text mother name dot text, and I think I'm correct, but this actually doesn't work. As if I go to my connection, it looks, oh, but under here in mother's last name, if we were to right click on that text field and scroll down, we'd see that it's still connected as an outlet called label mother name, not text mother name. So we have to close this connection and reconnect it. How to reconnect it is really easy. You can control click, right? Let's check that we don't have any other connection. We don't. And control click the text field and drag it to our connection here. And there we go. The empty dot is filled now, and we head over here. Wait 1 second. Let's double check that it's connected. Yeah, it is. Text mother name. There we go. I don't know why it's not blinking blue, but I think that we're on the clear. Text mother name as an outlet. And let's proceed. So you can add even more text afterwards. Let's say hello, my name, and I want to add an exclamation point. Make it a little bit more snappy. Okay, so now I think we can run our code and see if we're on the clear. Gonna click run. And right now it's building. And succeeded. So it didn't find any syntax errors or logical errors of any sort. And it's running the emulator as we speak. I'm gonna move this here. So this gives me some time to talk about the exclamation points. The exclamation point will only be put on things that you're not sure what kind of result is going to be here. Since this is a variable text name, it can be, in this case, it's called Marcelo when we run our code, as I'm going to put my first name. You don't know if it's going to be a string, a number, nothing. So what this does, it converts it to something that label name can read, which is string. So let's see if our program works. And I think you can just type in here and my mother's last name, Chapa, and click enter. And well, it did run, but since we didn't make our label bigger, it just added ... So let's make it bigger. That's the thing with Xcode. Even though I ran my program, I have to run it once more and wait a couple, like a minute, for it to run once more and upload on my virtual iPhone. So let's run it once more. So it succeeded and it's re-uploading it to my emulator. There we go. So let's try it again. Marcelo. Here. Chapa. Enter. There we go. So still, I'm gonna make my font here smaller. So next time I do run it, it's gonna be the whole sentence there and not ... But in itself, we're done. I'm gonna make this, gonna go to the utilities pane. Gonna make it way smaller so I don't encounter that error once again. I think we can do with 18. Close the utilities pane. Okay, run it one last time. And close my debugger, this thing. So it's going to be perfect for my screenshot, which is one of the things you need to submit the homework. Remember, it's a screenshot, the compressed folder of your whole file, and just name it accordingly. One last time, here, Chapa, enter, and there we go. I'm going to click Apple Shift 4, take a screenshot of my screen, and it's ready to be uploaded into Blackboard. We're going to head over to my documents. Here we have our app named accordingly. Just going to compress it. I'm going to take it to desktop. So I have my screenshot there. And I'll head over to Blackboard. I'm going to go to Assignments in Blackboard, App 6, well, Partial 1, App 6, and upload it. Browse my computer. App 6. And my screenshot. And there you go. That's how you do app number 6.